Okay, we're reading the Manual for Teachers of A Course in Miracles, and we're on number 8. And the question is, how can perception of order of difficulties be avoided? Now remember, there is no order of difficulties in miracles. It's the first miracle principle. There's 50 miracle principles at the very beginning of A Course in Miracles. So let's just read that first one real quick. Everyone who is a student of the course knows it, but we'll read it anyway. There is no order of difficulty in miracles. One is not, quote, harder, unquote, or, quote, bigger, unquote, than another. They are all the same. All expressions of love are maximal. Now, if you're new to the course, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense generally. Until you start working with the course a little bit. Even if you've been working with the course, you might still not completely understand what that means. You're in good company if you don't. But anyway, here we go. How can perception of order of difficulties be avoided? The belief in order of difficulties is the basis for the world's perception. It rests on differences, on uneven background and shifting foreground, on unequal heights and diverse sizes, on varying degrees of darkness and light, and thousands of contrasts in which each thing seen competes with every other in order to be recognized. A larger object overshadows a smaller one. A brighter thing draws the attention from another with less intensity of appeal. And a more threatening idea, or one conceived of as more desirable by the world's standards, completely upsets the mental balance. What the body's eyes behold is only conflict. Look not to them for peace and understanding. Illusions are always illusions of differences. How could it be otherwise? By definition, an illusion is an attempt to make something real that is regarded as of major importance, but is recognized as being untrue. The mind therefore seeks to make it true out of its intensity of desire to have it for itself. Illusions are travesties of creation, attempts to bring truth to lies. Finding truth unacceptable, the mind revolts against truth and gives itself an illusion of victory. Finding health a burden, it retreats into feverish dreams, and in these dreams the mind is separate. Different from other minds with different interests of its own and able to gratify its needs at the expense of others. Where do all these differences come from? Certainly they seem to be in the world outside, yet it is surely the mind that judges what the eyes behold. It is the mind that interprets the eye's messages and gives them, quote, meaning, unquote. And this meaning does not exist in the world outside at all. What is seen as, quote, reality, unquote, is simply what the mind prefers. Its hierarchy of values is projected outward, and it sends the body's eyes to find it. The body's eyes will never see except through differences. Yet it is not the messages they bring on which perception rests. Only the mind evaluates their messages, and so only the mind is responsible for seeing. It alone decides whether what is seen is real or illusory, desirable or undesirable, pleasurable or painful. It is in the sorting out and categorizing activities of the mind that errors in perception enter. And it is here correction must be made. The mind classifies what the body's eyes bring to it according to its preconceived values, judging where each sense datum fits best. What basis could be faultier than this? Unrecognized by itself, it has itself asked to be given what will fit into these categories. And having done so, it concludes that the categories must be true. On this, the judgment of all differences rests, because it is on this that judgments of the world depend. Can this confused and senseless, quote, reasoning, unquote, be depended on for anything? There can be no order of difficulty in healing merely because all sickness is illusion. It is harder to dispel the belief of the insane in a large... Is it harder to dispel the belief of the insane in a larger hallucination as opposed to a smaller one? Will he agree more quickly to the unreality of a louder voice he hears than to that of a softer one? Will he dismiss more easily a whispered demand to kill than a shout? And do the number of pitchforks the devils he sees carrying affect their credibility in his perception? His mind has categorized them all as real, and so they are all real to him. When he realizes they are all illusions, they will disappear. And so it is with healing. The properties of illusions which seem to make them different are really irrelevant, for their properties are as illusory as they are. The body's eyes will continue to see differences, but the mind that has let itself be healed will no longer acknowledge them. There will be those who seem to be, quote, sicker, unquote, than others, and the body's eyes will report their changed appearances as before. But the healed mind will put them all in one category. They are unreal. This is the gift of its teacher, the understanding that only two categories are meaningful in sorting out the messages the mind receives from what appears to be the outside world. And of these two, but one is real. Just as reality is wholly real, apart from size and shape and time and place, for differences cannot exist within it, so too are illusions without distinctions. The one answer to sickness of any kind is healing. The one answer to all illusions is truth. So how can perception of order of difficulties be avoided? Jesus' basic message here, and this is, all of this is very nuanced, and we could really go into the nitty-gritty and the nuances and the details. God is in the details, but let's just say, very generally, what is he saying here? He's saying that our eyes see a world, our eyes were made to see a world of differences, to see a world of different levels, shapes, sizes, different sizes, different, degrees of this or that, right? Dualities. But perception does not depend on what our eyes see. What perception depends upon is our interpretation of what our eyes see. And at the end here, Jesus mentions the teacher, and the teacher with a capital T. So the teacher is the Holy Spirit. Whenever something is capitalized like that, he's talking about the Holy Spirit. So whenever he says he with capital, I mean, unless he's talking about God, but generally, the words that are capitalized that are talking about someone, it's the Holy Spirit. So the teacher here is the Holy Spirit, who gives us the understanding that there's only two things, right? There's right perception and there's wrong perception in this world. Right perception is seeing things in accordance with how the Holy Spirit sees, which is without judgment, and sees that all illusions are merely illusions, right? No matter how great or small they are, they're all the same. And wrong perception would be seeing through the interpretation of the ego, which is that the differences are real, the differences are meaningful, the differences are real, the illusion is real, or that there are some illusions that are either more real or, some illusions are not real, but there are some illusions that are real. An example would be that, I love everyone. I love everyone. But then, if you really look at it, there are some people that you actually detest, or you may be aware that you hate them, or you're not completely, you're a little bit in denial, right? Or maybe a lot in denial, that there's things that you cannot abide, that you cannot stand, and that you cannot ever forgive or accept, right? Like I hate to say, give examples, but like the murder of little children, the things that go on in war, just brutality, dehumanization, just blanket destruction, and everything else that, anything and everything, people that are just mean and nasty and and like you want to throw up. Those kinds of things. This is now Jesus is saying that all those things that I just mentioned are no more or less illusions than anything else in this world. And if you react in those ways to those things more than any other illusion, you're making the same mistake, right? It's the mistake is making any of it real. This is why this is so challenging. This work is that the proof is in your is in how you feel, about all these things. And if you can be in that place of indifference, not in a bad way, but in a good way, the term that has been used is holy indifference. When you're in that place of holy indifference, you're there, right? Yeah, let's just say that, okay? I think one of the main points here is that everything is not what we see, but how we interpret what we see. And we have only two ways to interpret, according to the Course at least, and the Holy Spirit, which is there's the Holy Spirit's interpretation, which is, and the Holy Spirit is the voice for God. So it's really God's interpretation, but the Holy Spirit came into the dream with us. God is out of the picture because God does not even know about the dream, because God is in the state of perfect love, and this is not part of that reality. This is all, again, this is not necessarily literal, this is metaphorical. But the Holy Spirit's interpretation is that everything that is not a extension of love is a call for love, right? And so there's no order of difficulties in miracles. Everything is everything in this world is illusory. Everything in the world of perception is equally an illusion. The ego's interpretation is the illusion is real, and you must act as if it's very real. And there are some illusions that are more serious and more real than others. So anyway, we only have those two possibilities. So how can perception of orders of difficulty be avoided? Just through practicing the Course, basically. Practicing looking at our interpretations of what we see and asking ourselves, am I seeing this through the light of love, through the light of non-judgment, through the light of remembering what is true and what is not true, or am I choosing the ego's interpretation once again? So I think that's more, more or less what this is getting at. And again, we didn't really go into the nitty-gritty there, but hope that was helpful. Thanks for listening. And next one is we will keep going with this. Are changes required in the life situation of God's teachers? That's a short one. We'll do it next time. Thank you. See you soon.